Hello and welcome to PBCJ Presents, our weekly discussion series in which we examine some of the hot button issues of the day. I am Simone Absalom Gale. This week, our focus is on taxes. Every month when we receive our payslips, we see these deductions for taxes. But do we really understand what we are paying? How is it calculated? Unsure if you should be paying taxes? Are you a freelancer and not sure where you stand with taxes? Joining us in studio today to explain taxation is Miss Antoinette Anderson, who in her 18 years at the tax office has served in several roles such as taxpayer service assistant, motor vehicle officer, and now taxpayer education officer. Antoinette, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Simone.
All right, let's start with the basics. What taxes does the ordinary Jamaican pay?
Okay, so by ordinary Jamaican, I'm interpreting that to be somebody who is employed, or maybe somebody who has a business, like they're a sole trader. The taxes that would apply to these categories of persons would be the income tax, the NHT, the NIS, and the education tax. And we refer to do that as the statutory taxes, statutory deductions.
And how are these calculated?
Okay, so you would understand that each of them would have different rates and different ways in terms of calculations. So let's take it from the NIS. The NIS is calculated on your gross emoluments. For persons who are employed, it's calculated on their gross emoluments. So the current NIS rate is 3%, and it's 3% for both the employer and the employee. So when your employer takes this NIS from the salary, how it works is that he or she would match that amount by another 3% and turn that over to the government on a monthly basis. The education tax is calculated on what we call the statutory income. And how we arrive at the statutory income is that we would have removed the NIS and any kind of other exemptions and pensions. So by removing the NIS and these other exemptions and pension amounts, what is left is calculated at 2.25% for the employee. On the side of the employer, their rate is 3.5%. So collectively, those are calculated and turned over as well. The NHT, current rate for NHT for employees is 2%, but the employer pays 3% on behalf of the employee. And the NHT is calculated on the gross emolument as well. So you'd have removed, say your gross salary is $10, is 2% against that $10 that is turned over to the government from the employee side of it. And for the employer side, they would pay 3%, right? The income tax, on the other hand, is based on what your overall income is. Because say, for instance, you're earning below what we call the income tax threshold, and the threshold currently is $1,500,096. So say you're earning below that, income tax would not apply to you any at all. In the event that goes above, that your income goes above, having removed your NIS, if it is still above, what is left is calculated at 25%. And as you earn more, the rate will change. So if you're earning over $6 million, your rate for income tax is going to be 30%, right? Anything in excess of 6 million is calculated at 30%.
So the more money you make, the more taxes you pay.
Naturally.
What if you're below though? Do the other taxes apply, like the NHT?
They definitely will. Because remember, the threshold is only based on the income tax. The only other drawback where this is concerned is if you're earning at the minimum wage or if you're earning less than the minimum wage, then you'd not be expected to pay the education tax and the NHT, right? And the NIS would be at the minimum NIS rate, which is like $250 per week. That would translate to $13,000 at the end of a year that you'd pay for the NIS. Now, I want to step back a bit because this will only be applicable where the NIS is concerned, where you don't pay.
I want you to think about it a little bit. We're going to go for a break because I really want you to get into it because I want the small man, say the vendor on the street, to really understand what that is. But we're going to take a short break. Okay. We're going to let you collect your thoughts and then we'll be right back. You're watching PBCJ Presents and we're talking about taxation. So if you have a question or you want to learn how to go about paying your taxes and what taxes you should be paying, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Bullying is not cool. It's not fun. It's outright wrong. Did you know that bullying frequently takes place at school and on our playground? And more than 60% of Jamaican students face abuse from schoolmates. If you bully kids at school, it's wrong. If you are being bullied at school, speak up about it so that help can reach you. To report bullying, speak to your guidance counselor or call 888-PROTECT. It's time to ban the bullying.
A message from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA.
Welcome back to PBCJ Presents. We're talking about taxation with Miss Anderson. So we were talking about persons who fall below the threshold. It could be self-employed people. You were talking about the tax that they would have to pay. All right, continue with that. Okay,
so I dealt with the taxes, the calculations for employed person. So to delve a little bit how it's treated on the self-employed side of it, naturally the rates will be a little different. So like for a self-employed person who is contributing to NIS, their rate would be 6%. So they're paying collectively the amount that would have been paid if they were on the employed side of it. So that's 6% for NIS. They'll pay 3% for NHT and is the same for education tax, 2.25%. Now, how it's calculated on the self-employed side of it is based on net profits, right? So if your net profits are in excess of the 1.5, yes, you're going to be required to pay the income tax. However, if it falls below, then there's not going to be any, liability for income tax in that case. In the case of education tax and the NIS, if your net profits fall below the minimum wage, which currently is $9,000 per week, I guess if you work that over a year, it'd be $468,000. So if you realize a net profit less than that, then there would be no calculations for the NHT or the education tax either. But a minimum expectation is going to be there for NIS. So, and that would be the $13,000 that I had mentioned earlier.
Something just came to me. If I was one of those persons who I'm not making more than $1 million, it would be tempted to not pay taxes because they're saying, boy, I'm barely making it. Mm-hmm. Why is it important? And it can be your personal opinion. You've had years of experience in this field. Why is it important to pay your taxes?
Simone, you have to understand that the government cannot run the country without its major source of income, which comes directly from taxation or from taxes. It's like expecting that your garbage is going to be removed when you haven't paid for any of it. I believe that it's necessary that persons find it their personal responsibility to pay their taxes, because the civic pride that comes with it, and not only that, you can look at yourself as contributing to the national development of your own country, and so while you pay it, you're paying for roads, you're paying for schools, you're paying the teachers who have to go into these schools, you're paying for health workers, you're paying for the fire service, you're paying for the police, you're paying for the persons who are at the retention centers, what we call the prisons. You're paying for all of this. And it's best when everybody contributes their fair share. It's necessary. You don't want to have one sector of the population bearing all of the burden, and then the other side of it, they're just enjoying the benefits without contributing to it. It's not fair. We exist, we have to coexist, and a part of our coexistence would mean that, you do your share, I do my share, and we meet each other halfway in some of it, So yeah, you have to pay it, because these are what the government uses to fund its public services. And not to mention to pay the debt. We have all of these responsibilities.
The government has its bills to pay, and that's how they pay their bills, right?
Right.
What about big businesses, say, owners of hotels and stuff like that? Is their taxation set up differently? I mean, a lot of persons talk about tax breaks and stuff like that. How do we look at that? Okay.
So we're talking about different tax types or different category of taxes when you talk about the hotels, because while they are mandated to pay the income tax, and if they're registered for GCT, the taxes basically the rates would be the same. So you pay for the income tax, the rate for a hotel, and then the structure of these bigger businesses it doesn't differ much from if it's a smaller company. Is the same tax types would be required. So if you're a limited company, would be expecting the income tax return, similar for a partnership. So the size don't necessarily matter. The same tax types would apply. If you're talking about the nature of their business, some different tax types may apply. So in an entity that, take for instance, you manufacture paper. So these entities will see other tax types like the environmental protection levy, which may, even though they are a registered limited company, it means that this is an additional tax that they'll be expected to pay. So it really depends on the nature of the nature of the business or the entity, and
So before you get into your business, you need to
first assess which tax types will be applicable to you, and understand the rates, understand how they're calculated. So you'll have a foreknowledge of what your expectations will be when you're in business.
Can I come to your office and get that information?
Sure. So I am an education officer, as you had mentioned earlier. We are tasked with the responsibility of informing and educating the public on different various tax-related matters. So our unit opens itself to everybody, anybody who comes, walking into the office, to give this information to them. And not only that, at the end of the year, we have what is called a special taxpayer assistance program, where we sit with business owners, self-employed persons, and we help them to complete their annual return. So whichever obligation these persons may have, we assist them, we guide them in how to do it. And I don't know if you're aware, but most of the things that we do now are strictly online. So you need to be registered on the TAJ's website, and we'll guide you through the process for you to be able to do them.
All right, so we're going to hear more about this process, but we have to take a short break. You're watching PBCJ Presents. Stay with us.
I wish to inform Jamaica that the government has already launched Operation Get Every Illegal Gun. My message today, therefore, is directed to the many young men who have illegal weapons in their possession, who hide the weapons, or as they say, lock them. And I'm speaking as well to the girlfriends, the baby mothers, the sisters and the mothers who give them cover and protection. I'm giving you warning. Put down the gun. Give it up. Leave the gang. Dissociate yourself from the gunmen. Otherwise, the consequences will be grim.
Welcome back. You're watching PBCJ Presents, and we're talking about taxation. Okay, so if I am working at a regular 9-to-5 job, but I have, some side hustles, I'm a freelancer, do I have to pay taxes on my extra money?
Yes, you do. So based on the Income Tax Act, Section 5, it alludes to reporting all of your income sources for the purpose of the income tax. So you have to report those. Say for instance, you're employed. Okay. Your employer would be paying these taxes on your behalf. So there wouldn't be any need for you to do any kind of reporting. But in the case where you have other income sources, you're renting property, you talk about side hustle. Side hustle can mean anything nowadays. But as long as it's that additional income generation, it's expected that you file an annual return and a SO4 to report all of your income sources. So you're going to be reporting your employment income in addition to your side hustles, based on how you put it.
Fair enough. But what if I haven't been paying it? Do I have to pay a backlog? I'm asking for a friend.
Okay, so the tax system that we have is a self-assessment tax system, where you are expected to be honest in how you operate your business, in how you keep your records, and in how you report to us. So if you have been, earning from your side hustle last year, but you just decided that you're not going to pay and stuff like that, things like this can be held against you if we do investigations and find that you're earning these other income, but you're not reporting it. So you don't want it to get to the investigations part of it. You have a civic duty to go and report them. So
speaking about investigations, is the TAJ going to come for me, for my friend? Or is it like police is going to come knocking on the door of my friend if my friend is caught up on?
So there is a process with everything, right? We don't want it to be draconian. So if we find that you are earning additional income, you get a gentle call. We realize that you may be earning more and you should be. And I've seen cases where persons are asked to come in and register themselves for these additional income. And then you have other instances where forced registrations are done. So even in the case of a GCT, we find or we get wind of you earning income in excess of this 10 million gross sales per annum, and no movement is being, taken by you, then we can always force register you. So it means then that you have to now comply with the GCT Act by filing a GCT return every month, So yes, there are a lot of things that are changing within TAJ. So while we're not there yet, we're far away from where we used to be. So getting information, analyzing information, understanding what's happening within the space are things that we're now using to, go after the taxes. We have to get the taxes. It's necessary.
How would you calculate that extra money though? Is it calculated the same way as my regular paycheck?
No, so like I'd explained earlier, when you're reporting the self-employment part of it, your rates will be different, right? So your NIS is going to be 6% on the self-employment income. Your NHT is going to be 3%, and the education tax is still 2.25%.
All right, let's talk about record keeping real quickly. I've heard that that's important, whether you're a small business, a sole trader, or a big business. How important is it and why?
Extremely important. Extremely important. So much so it's mentioned in both the GCT and the Income Tax Act. So you have to keep your records up to 6 years in the past, plus your current records. And why is it important? It is a way of you reporting the correct thing when you're filing your return. You're right? You understand? So by having those records, you'll be able to report properly what your tax obligations are.
What kind of records are we speaking
All right,
about?
so we're talking about invoices, we're talking about journals. Some persons have a whole database, computerized database where they keep records. Whatever you use in your business, you keep receipts, different kinds of. Take for instance, you spoke about a vendor on the road earlier. Like, we're not going to expect this vendor to have a computer beside him unless he's trying to do something modern or stuff. But like, to keep simple records in a book, log them somewhere. You made a sale, you log it. You bought something to use in your business, you log those, because you'll be reporting based on your income and expenses. So records are keeping records is extremely important. And on the side of the persons who operate business, you use your records to determine if your business is viable. It's necessary. If your business is not viable, then your records is what's going to show you this. So it's not just from the side where you're reporting taxes, but it's for your information as well.
To see if your business is growing or not.
If your business is growing, you'll know from your records. If it's not, you will know from your records.
Is there someone at the TAJ who can help me with that?
Records?
To get my to put my records in order to tax. Do you offer that kind of service?
No. At the moment, we don't have that kind of service.
All right.
So you'd probably have to seek an accountant answer in that regard.
All right. Let's talk about tax returns, though. Do we have that in Jamaica?
All right. So let me understand. When you say tax returns,
do I get any, I file all my taxes. Do I get any type of returns? I know we have that for NHT.
Okay. So for persons who are employed, right? There is the likelihood in some cases that your employer may have taken more income tax than they were supposed to. So maybe the rates change and something changed about the threshold and they didn't do, the upgrade of their system in time to account for these. So it could be that at the end of the year, you actually paid more in income tax than you were supposed to. In that case, you'd be eligible for a refund of your income tax that was paid through employment.
Tax
refund of your income tax.
Okay, so that's the terminology.
Yeah. So all right. So we have in Jamaica, when you say a return, we interpret it internally as the report that you will have to produce to the government at the specified date to say what took place in your business. You know, so the return on our side of it is your reporting, your return. You're saying to us, you know, this is what happened. So if there are instances where like you're involved in self-employment activity, and say for instance you had estimated at the beginning of the year that, you know, I'm going to make some good money, and you had started to pay the estimated the income tax throughout the year, but you find that at the end of it, having operated for the whole year, you actually didn't realize what you had anticipated on your estimate. Instances like those, you can apply for a refund of the income tax that you would have paid up front.
All right, I want to reiterate how we can get this information from the TAJ. Let our audience know the services that you offer.
Okay, so I'll start by saying that the Taxpayer Education Unit in 4 of our RSCs, the RSC is Revenue Service Centers. Those are the main offices. That's Kingston, St. Andrew, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. There are taxpayer education officers who sit in these offices, who are there and are ready to give the information to you, to give hands-on information. So like if it's for filing the return, we're right there to help you to do it. Failing that, you can call our tax help. So we have the customer care line that you can call to get the information. And in addition to that, we have a website that is full, it's loaded. It's loaded with information. So you can access our website to get information on the different things that exist on the different tax types. Right, and our web address is www.jamaicatax.gov.jm.
All right, thank you very much. It's been very educational. A lot of things that we have to mull over, especially persons who are small business owners, because those are the persons that, you know, really would like the education, because a lot of them would be doing it themselves. All right, you've been watching PBCJ Presents. Our topic this week, taxes. Thanks to my special guest, Taxpayer Education Officer, Miss Antoinette Anderson from the Tax Administration Office. This has been PBCJ Presents. Join us again next time for another episode. Pleasant viewing.